What prevents you from changing your usual life scenario and how to fight it? There are several stores near your home, but you only go into one of them. Most likely, it's a supermarket where you can buy everything you need. However, you don't need that much. You walk past the racks, looking at the huge assortment of products, but you choose the same as always, a standard set of products from familiar manufacturers. When something is out of stock, you have to choose an analog. This simple process already creates doubts and discomfort. It would seem to be a ridiculous change, but what are the consequences? What to speak about more serious changes in life, about which you have thought a lot, but never decided to make them. Algorithm of the mind. What the human mind cares most about is keeping its host alive as long as possible. Anything familiar is perceived as safer and preferable to the unknown and likely dangerous. Simply put, the mind's desire for predictability is dictated by the instinct for self-preservation. Think of your brain as a data collection and processing machine. All experiences are stored and documented. In this way, concise and understandable logical connections are formed. Fire means hot. You can get burned. A knife is sharp. You can cut yourself. Constant accumulation of experience and learning helps us to orient ourselves in the world and in individual situations. The more diverse information is gathered, the more correct and quicker decisions are made. This method of interacting with the world around us has its disadvantages. When faced with failure or something unpleasant, the brain tends to expect something even worse. For example, doing something for the first time, you are unlikely to achieve a high result. This is understandable. Lack of skill and experience. However, the brain can draw the wrong conclusion. Suppose you throw the ball into the basket and don't hit it. The conclusion is obvious. You're a bad basketball player. But the mind will want to generalize and add something like I'm bad at anything new, which means nothing new is worth trying if there's no guarantee it will work out. This is why we are so distrustful of any change in life. Emotional addiction. Joe Dispenza's book, The Supernatural Mind, describes how and why thoughts, feelings and emotions turn into certain patterns or patterns. To avoid recounting entire chapters, we'll simplify a bit and greatly abbreviate. Every thought or emotion is converted into a chemical reaction that affects the body. The longer the same thought wanders in your head, the more often you experience the same emotion, the more of the same chemicals the body produces and consumes. Gradually, these thoughts and emotions become habitual, familiar and therefore safe. Moreover, over time you become dependent on the chemicals produced by the thoughts and emotions. The moment a person decides to change something, to look at life from a different angle, to give up some habit, there is discomfort in the brain. New thoughts do not generate the usual chemical reactions and do not correspond to the usual sensations. This can, indeed, be compared to drug or alcohol addiction. When there is a sudden change in thoughts and emotions, the brain sends alarm signals to the body. Some unforeseen situation has arisen. Something is probably not going according to plan. This is interpreted as danger. As a defense reaction, the brain intensively generates old thoughts, trying not to let you go in an unknown direction. An example of a defensive reaction. The most understandable example would be an unhappy personal relationship that has lasted for years. One partner feels affection but receives apparent detachment in return. The lover is regularly confronted with contrived business. Meetings or outings are constantly cancelled. Any attempts to get closer are thwarted. Relationships are not broken definitively, but become negligently cold. Simply put, one of the partners is simply allowed to be around. The one, in turn, is most afraid of being abandoned. Sooner or later this happens. Then the man's world collapses, although in essence he is deprived of only an unfair dependence, gains freedom. However, it is perceived quite differently. In the future, because of the habits developed and chemical elements received, the brain can make a wrong conclusion. The next relationship will be built on the same principles of dependence, but the model will become even more one-sided. The mind wants things to stay the same, so it will find the problem in the particulars. You have to make more sacrifices, be even more gentle, open and patient. Without your knowledge, the mind will try to build up the former order of things, creating the illusion of safety. This is why first serious relationships are important. They lay the foundation for all subsequent endeavors. A person may realize that he or she is deeply unhappy, but changing the formed model means stepping out into the unknown. As we remember, the brain perceives this as danger. Decide and act. Despite the crucial role of the mind, a person still has a will and a physical body that he or she can control manually. This allows one to eliminate the brain's miscalculations and arrive at the desired change. Realization of how habits and attachments work will help to assess the width of the river, to identify the ford even in the most turbulent current. Once you get to the opposite shore, your old self will weaken and soon recede. You will die for it, and it will die for you. This is how the renewal of man takes place. However, it is necessary that the desire to transition is stronger than the addiction and the brain's entreaties to stay. All negative thought patterns should be discarded, at least for the duration of the crossing. It's the old you that didn't deserve better, couldn't accomplish anything, and was doomed to the existing stability. Ignore feelings of guilt, anger, worthlessness and fear. They arise as the final frontier of the mind's defenses. They are an attempt to scare you, to make you come to your senses and turn back. In reality, it is only the brain that is frightened, because it does not know what is on the other side of the river. The mere declaration of intent excites the brain to the extreme. Nothing has happened yet, but it is disgusted by the very thought of change. But this will pass quickly enough after a few small changes, which will be painless for the physical body and not at all dangerous for your new self. The mind will have to adapt to the new conditions, produce other chemicals and find satisfaction in them. How to weaken the unconscious. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will run your life and you will call it destiny. Carl Jung. True motives, deep fears, dark thoughts are in the realm of the unconscious. They have been formed from life experiences, put aside and layered over the years. Nevertheless, it is as much a part of you as the part that asks for coffee in the morning or reaches out to pet your favorite cat. The unconscious can become conscious. For this you have to dig deep into your head, getting to the deepest essence, answering the most terrible and uncomfortable questions like who am I and why did I become like this? The brain does not like this. It perceives it as an invasion of personal territory. But the invasion takes place without the use of physical manipulation. Your only tool is your mind, strengthened by will and determination. Against this, the brain will not resist and will reveal all the secrets accumulated in the secret rooms of unconsciousness. Such an operation cannot be compared to a walk in an evening park. It is a real room of horrors. However, real monsters do not live there. All the images, thoughts and pictures are familiar to you. With courage and patience, you will be able to find answers to all the questions. In turn, these answers will bring the unconscious into the realm of the conscious, and therefore under your control.